Hello everyone and welcome back to Steins Gate 0. I'm G, and we are going through a bit of a moment. So we were having the Christmas party at the Future Gadget Laboratory, to which Suzuha, Leskinen, and Maho were all invited. Oh, and Nai, and Kaede, and Fubuki. Just everybody's there. Everybody's there except for Yugo. But now everything's all fucked up, Fubuki has collapsed, and Reading Steiner is going off. So let's get started. Oh boy. 1.382733. Still in the beta attractor field. Pandora's box. Oh, everything's fucked. For the first time in almost 4 months, I felt like the whole world was twisting. Who was it? Who had changed the world line? I didn't do anything. I hadn't interfered with the world. So why was the world line doing this to me? I opened my eyes. Things had already taken on different colors. The world kept wavering until once again it became fixed to a single point in time. I wasn't looking at a warm, cheerful party in the lab anymore. I was outside. It was raining. The rain was falling on my face and drops so large that it hurt. It was a midwinter rain. It was freezing cold and I could feel it sapping the strength from my body. My view stopped twisting. I was staring at the broad back of a man I didn't know. I could hear the sound of many boots stamping through the mud, mingling with falling rain. The stench was terrible. The smell of sewage was so strong it hurt to breathe, and it was mixed with the awful smell of burning rubber and plastic. Where was I? What was I doing right now? Things around me had changed so much. I tried to understand the situation I was in, but my brain was having an awful time keeping up. We're almost there! Hang in there! When I stopped, a rough hand patted me on the shoulder encouragingly. I looked around to see a man my age with a strong, powerful face. It was a face I'd never seen. I didn't know him. Probably. The man was wearing the camo outfit and equipment I'd often seen the self-defense force wear on the news. He was carrying an assault rifle on his shoulder. There were 7 or 8 people around me, all dressed the same. They surrounded me in a circular formation and walked forward silently, as I kept a careful eye on the area around them. These people, the self-defense force? And then I realized, I was wearing the same camo uniform they were. I'm in the SDF too? I touched my bicep to check, but there was no muscle. I was flabby and weak. Unlike the others, I wasn't carrying any weapons. What was going on here? I felt like these 7 or 8 tough-looking SDF guys were all guarding me. Since when was I that important? Still confused, I dragged myself onwards. Where was I, anyway? It was a long path filled with dark brown mud. The walls formed a tall silhouette to the left and right. The path was filled with garbage and concrete rubble, and sometimes we had to force our way past it. I looked up past the high walls. Despite the rain, the moon in the night sky was strangely red and a little too bright. It was thanks to the moon that we were able to walk down a path like this without flashlights. Huh? Sound. I heard a sound. It was the sound of water. I looked over and saw a hole open in one of the walls. Filthy water was pouring out. The water formed dozens of little rivers that blocked our path. That was it. This was the bottom of a river that had dried up. It looked like high walls with the river dikes. Where are we? I turned towards the man who had spoken to me a bit ago and yelled so that my voice could be heard over the rain. Shh! Don't make any loud noises! Oh, sorry. We're almost through the city center. We can make it to Nerima Garrison. There'll be a car waiting for you. Just keep walking. But his words cut off there. Everyone seemed more tense than ever. One of them grabbed me and pushed me toward the side of the riverbed. Everyone put their backs against the wall and held their breath. I could hear the sound of a helicopter's rotors in the distance. No, more than just one. They were getting closer. I had no idea what was going on, but I could feel my heart starting to beat faster. Get in the shadow of that car! Past several meters of rubble lay an overturned car. It must have fallen into the riverbed after the water had disappeared. The entire body was bent inward and the roof was completely crushed. I lay down in the stinking mud and slid into the shadow of the overturned car. At the same time, the SDF soldiers were issuing each other orders, as if this was something they'd planned for already. 2 of them stayed by my side, and everyone else ran back the way we'd come. They all climbed up crevices and outcroppings on the wall, then disappeared over the edge of the dike and out of my view. Shortly after, Those were gunshots. Not just a single shot from a handgun or anything like that. This was the sound of war. I could hear the helicopters getting further away, drawn by the gunfire. Oh no. This world line. Is Japan at war? Third World War. I remembered Suzuha's words. I happened to look inside the crushed car. I could see the corpses of a man, a woman, and a small child hanging upside down, still attached to their seatbelts. They were all covered in dried black blood. They looked like mannequins at a bad haunted house. And I realized I'd been so focused on moving forward that I hadn't noticed what they were. I had seen similar mannequins sunk into the mud. I could see their arms, the bones and ragged muscle exposed to the air, reaching up to the sky as if seeking salvation. Put my hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. Those weren't mannequins! Now, get alongside of the wall and move! Huh? We're changing the route. Come on, stand up! He pulled me up. My knees were shaking from shock and exhaustion. The others are drawing away the Soviet helicopters, but that won't last long. Hurry! The Soviet Union? My mind was dulled from the terror, but it seemed like there was something off about what he just said. Get a hold of yourself! You know how many people have died to protect you? Protect me? Why? We haven't been told why, but we were told to lay down our lives for you if we had to. That you could change this country's future. A helicopter passed over the riverbed. A bright searchlight passed by for a moment, but thankfully the shadow of the dike hid us. This way. A young SDF soldier, whose name I didn't even know, pulled me inside one of the holes in the concrete. When I looked closely, I could see that it was the entrance to a sewer. It was just big enough for a single person to pass through. Struggling against the flow of water that came up to my knees, I pressed on through the darkness. My sense of smell had already gone numb, so I didn't have to worry about the stench of the sewage. Once inside, we came to several branching paths. The SDF soldiers seemed to know which one would lead where, and they marched on without hesitation. And then we came out of the sewer and back into a riverbed. It was dried up, just like the one we'd just been through. I didn't know if it was the same river or another one, and the two soldiers didn't tell me. Either way, I was glad to be finally out of the foul-smelling darkness, and I tried to take a deep breath and fill my lungs with fresh air. But... halfway through, I realized that the riverbed smelled even worse than the sewer. I took an involuntary step back, and then another. The sight in front of me was just that terrible. What was once a riverbed was now filled with bodies. Some of them had been burnt totally black, so it was impossible to tell how much death lay before me. And in the distance, I could see what looked like bonfires. They were burning despite the rain. The fires were consuming the mountains of flesh that once were human bodies. We're almost there. I know it's rough, but can you run? Huh? Yeah. The SDF soldier spoke to me, and then I came back to my senses. If it weren't for these two, I wouldn't have been able to stay sane. We ran through the riverbed, one of them in front of me, the other behind. I could hear the constant drone of the helicopters above me. Sometimes the searchlights got very close. Each time they did, I hid in the piles of bodies until they passed. I'd seen this many times before as I'd wandered through the world lines. I'd seen death. I'd seen the moments when people had died. But at the same time, I'd never experienced what happened to a dead person after they were left out for a long time. More than fear, more than sorrow, the thing that hit me first was the smell of death. The rotting stench ate away at my body, not my soul. My whole body was rejecting it. It made me feel sick. Thinking that way meant trampling on the dignity of the dead, but I couldn't help it. The Valley of Hinnom. I remembered that phrase. That was what that strange attacker had said that night, when they came after Dr. Leskin and Maho and me. It is better for you to enter life with one eye than to have two eyes and be thrown into the Valley of Hinnom. The valley was the origin of the word Gehenna, meaning hell. It was said that flames burned there every night, scorching the heavens themselves. Those who died merciless deaths with anger or misery in their hearts were flung into the flames, their souls becoming black smoke that rained hatred down on the land. What I stared at now was Gehenna. two soldiers led me to a half-collapsed subway tunnel. The lights were all off because there was no electricity, but there were 3 armored cars in camo colors with their headlights on to illuminate the way. They were 4-wheel drive off-road vehicles covered in thick chunks of armor, but I didn't see any real weapons. You can take the subway route to escape to Saitama. I hear it's still safe at Iruma Base. If you can get that far, you should be able to escape Kanto. Escape Kanto? I was glum about it. For now, just hurry. There were a lot of things I wanted to ask, but even as we spoke, I heard what sounded like gunshots outside the tunnel. The men forced me into the back seat of one of the cars. Goodbye. I'll be praying for your safety. What? What about you guys? We have another mission to carry out. Farewell. The 2 soldiers who had brought me here saluted, then turned around and left the station. I felt like I was never going to see them again. The door of the armored car slammed shut with a heavy thud. The car's crew were SDF soldiers, just a little older than me. The diesel engine kicked to life and the car raced down a tunnel that had originally been designed for trains. Of course, it wasn't a pleasant ride at all, but I didn't have any choice. There was no way I could tell them I wanted to go to Akihabara. I had no way to alter the world line. I had to survive in this hellish world. And to survive, I needed to do what they said. My wants didn't matter at all. I wasn't even allowed to express them. I just did as they told me and ran. It was all I could do. I had no idea that it would take an entire month. Oh. Anonymous Security Council. The USSR starts experimenting with a time machine and America goes apeshit. Give me that time machine, USSR, but I refuse. Eastern powers and Soviets get cocky. How's it feel to be you right now, huh? How's it feel? This brings us to the end of your regularly scheduled Cold War. US, I'm a bomb you from Japan, woo. USSR, then we'll invade Japan. US, oh shit, right now. USSR is kicking ass. Hokkaido and any Japan are screwed. Are they coming for Central Japan now? People of Nagoya. GTFO. Amateurs who know nothing about strategy need to STFU. The SDF may look like they're retreating, but they've actually got a defense line at Mount Fuji. Sorry. They're about to start a counterattack. The Mount Fuji line. Ooh. Who the hell is dumb enough to believe Japanese Imperial High Command? We better not start hearing calls for kamikaze pilots soon. Shut up, noob. Idiots like you are the real threat to Japan. Wait, what the hell happened to the collective right of self-defense? America's only interested in protecting Okinawa. What the hell is the SDF doing getting sent off to Siberia? How are they supposed to protect the country? You protect it, Chicken Hawk. You want to fight? Go volunteer. They say they aren't getting enough recruits. Are they going to start conscription soon, do you think? What's the point of conscripting a bunch of fat otaku? They just get in the way. War these days requires professional soldiers. Says the fat otaku who doesn't want to go to war. There are barely any professional soldiers left in Japan. Our masters in America sent them all around the globe and then stuck them here. Stuck them there. You guys will probably be getting your conscription notices soon. Good luck, I'm a chick, so I don't care. In other words, if we get a sex change, we won't have to go, right? The real enemies of Japan are its own citizens, huh, asshole? So seriously, are we going to be split up like Germany? It's likely. They say there's a provisional government forming in Okinawa. They're all set to abandon East Japan and have the America protect the West. Those incompetents in the government might honestly do it. Is this really the time to bash politicians? Traitors shill. Traitor? Shill? Strategically, America can't let go of Okinawa, and Japan wants to keep some kind of government. That means that making a provisional government in Okinawa is the best option. You bashed the hell out of Okinawa up until now, and you're telling me this? Shut up, traitor. So if I'm a traitor, what are you? If you're posting on @chan right now, that means you either fled the country or ran to Okinawa. Is this the days you don't get to talk thread? Oh boy. The reason it took a month to get to Okinawa was that we were losing the war. Supposedly, the plan had been to ferry me by plane to Okinawa once I'd arrived at Iruma Base. But the constant bombing had slowed us down, so they gave up on the plane and decided I would escape to Kyushu by ground. There was more than one attack by Soviet spies and assault teams. Some of the SDF soldiers protecting me died. When I got to Sasebo, I was able to get on a maritime SDF escort ship and managed to escape to Okinawa. Why are they all doing this for me? No matter how many times I asked, no one would answer. Okinawa in winter was covered in thick clouds. Come to think of it, I hadn't seen a real break in the clouds for a whole month. I was thinking about that when I was loaded into a van with dark tinted windows that had come to pick me up from the port. Inside the car was not only the driver, but a middle-aged man sitting in the front passenger seat. He was very short, perhaps only around 150 centimeters tall. But he had the air of a military veteran, and even though he was fully dressed, I could tell he was extremely muscular. Intro Hokabe, correct? I'm Shimuyama with the Ministry of Defense's Intelligence Security Command. I'm going to make a stop at the airport and then head to the Okinawa Defense Bureau in GEHENNA. I'm sure you're tired from your long journey, but I'll have to ask you to hang in there for a while longer. Right. I'd heard that Tokyo had been destroyed. Major functions of the Japanese government were now headquartered at the Okinawa Defense Bureau to allow for better cooperation with the American forces stationed nearby. That's what Shimuyama explained to me. In other words, the place I was heading to was the core of Japan's defenses. Once I arrived, would I understand why it was so important that all those soldiers were willing to die to protect me? The car stopped in front of Naha Airport for a while, and then I saw a surprising pair get aboard. Okabe! Wow, it's really Ocarine! You're Yuki and Nakase! I wasn't expecting to see them there. They were the first people I knew who I had met since coming to this world line. That alone was almost enough to make me cry. But still, I couldn't just sit there and be happy. What about Mayuri? Do you know where she is? She's fine. Yuki nodded as if trying to make me feel better. She was just with us. Just with you? That's right, Mayushi and Rumiho and Ruka and Kaede. We got to the airport this morning. We were all waiting because they said they could get to the same place called the Defense Bureau where we'd be safe. They just said they'd take Fubuki and me there first. Then they had us get inside this car where we found you. Anyway, I'm glad everybody's safe. Since Dairo and Suzuha weren't mentioned, I was going to ask about them, but... Sorry, but can you talk about this later? Shimuyama cut me off and the car started moving. The plan is for your families to arrive at the Okinawa Defense Bureau eventually. We already have them under our protection. Really? I'm so glad. Your other friends are all in the car behind us. You haven't been separated, so don't worry. I took a quick look and saw another identical van a little behind us. So Mayuri and the others were there? We'll see them later, right? Of course. Yuki let out a sigh of relief. But then I started to wonder about something else. How are we split into different cars? This van could hold at least another 3 people. If we squeezed tight, it could easily hold everyone. Was there some reason they put me, Yuki, and Fubuki in the same car? The car drove alongside the Okinawa monorail for a while, and then went south down a wide bypass. It's so dark! Eh? What was that? Nothing, just... There are all these stores, but they're all dark. There were lots of franchise restaurants, big supermarkets, cafeterias for tourists, and rent-a-car places all jammed together along the side of the road. All of them were dead silent, and their lights were turned off. Barely any of the street lights were turned on, and the only cars were Japanese and US military vehicles. I didn't see anyone out walking. There's a blackout in effect, as well as a curfew past 5 o'clock p.m. Okinawa may be safe, but this is still wartime. Things can't be like they were. Can't wait for the war to end and everything to go back to normal. Wartime, huh? Tell me, Okabe, the Okinawa you knew was a bright, fun place even at night, wasn't it? Oh, I wouldn't know. I've never been to Okinawa before. That's a shame. I pray you get to come back for a good vacation sometime. This really is a nice island. The car headed up from the bypass over a land bridge and then to another road. We quickly came to a long tunnel. I actually wanted to ask the 3 of you some questions before we got to the bureau. That's why I have you riding with me. Huh? My guess was right. That meant there was something he wanted to ask just the 3 of us. But why us 3? I wasn't particularly close to Yuki or Fubuki. I'd only even started talking to them a few months ago. And then I shook my head. That was before the world line changed. Maybe things were different in this world line. I had no idea what my relationship was to anyone else in this world line. Since the SDF had been treating me so well, I didn't want to make Shimuyama suspicious. I decided it would be best to leave most of the talking to Yuki and Fubuki. Yuki Amane. Amane. Sorry, again. Yes? Shimuyama spoke to Yuki first. Yuki went stiff when her name was called. I could feel it even sitting next to her. You don't know where Itaru Hashida and his little sister are, do you? Little sister? It must be Suzuha. That would mean that even if, in this world line, Suzuha had come from the future and gotten to know Yuki and the others while pretending to be Suzuha's sister. And the SDF evidently didn't know where Daru and Suzuha were.
No,
Yuki fell silent and glanced over to me, as if expecting help. I didn't know where they were either. I didn't even have any memories of this world line, so I had no way of answering. Yuki's attitude bothered me. It was as if she knew where they were and was deliberately hiding it, and I was supposed to be hiding it too. I could figure that out. I'm sure Shimoyama could too. A strange tension filled the car. Yuki was trying to hide it? From whom? You sure you don't know? Shimoyama turned around from the front passenger seat and asked again.
I'm sorry.
Yuki bowed her head in apology. But you were very close to him, weren't you? You were his lover, and yet you heard nothing.
You know that cell phones don't work anymore, right?
There are plenty of ways to get in touch with someone besides a cell phone.
I really don't.
Nothing from his sister either?
Nothing.
By the way, I'm told that you were researching something with Hashida, Okabe.
Huh?
I wasn't sure how to react when this conversation suddenly turned towards me. Researching? Researching what? Uh-oh. If they panic, I'll make them suspicious. What were you researching? We just have to give them the most harmless answers I could. It wasn't really research, it was more like inventions. Inventions? Like whether you could attach a CCD camera to a bamboo copter to do aerial photography. Whether you could use the heat from a vacuum cleaner as a hairdryer. Oh, that's interesting. Then you weren't, say, making something unbelievable and running away from us so that we wouldn't find out what it was. Running away? Damn, responded. That was a mistake. Does that mean that Daru and Suzuha were hiding from the SDF amidst all this chaos? The SDF had risked their lives to protect me over the past month. Shouldn't I be asking them for help? I got even more confused. If you don't know, then that's fine. We'll talk about Hashida and his sister some other time. Somebody please tell me what the right answer is. How am I supposed to respond here? Katsumi Nakase, there was something else I wanted to ask you.
Me?
This time it was Fubuki's turn to jump up in her seat. No, don't get so nervous, it's nothing big. Or so Shimoyama said, but Fubuki was clearly starting to get scared. Her reaction was strange, it was too strong. Maybe the self-defense forces weren't simply protecting us. For one thing, there was no way normal civilians like us merited such important treatment. Then what were they after? No, I could guess. The time machine. This war started with Russia's time machine experiments. And of course, Nakabachi was involved. I'd learned from some of the soldiers that even in this world line he'd sought asylum in Russia. And Suzuha was a time traveler from the year 2036. If Suzuha was here in this era, that meant that it was Daru who made the time machine that brought her here. If you had a time machine, you could change the outcome of the war. It would make sense if that's what the Japanese government thought, and if that was why they were trying to capture Daru, Suzuha, and their friends. Once I realized that, the whole situation started to feel terrifying to me. Was this car really headed towards the Okinawa Defense Bureau? If it was, are they really going to keep us safe there? About the physical you underwent last week.
Was there some problem?
No, you've almost recovered from the wounds you sustained in Tokyo, and health-wise you're fine, but you're under a lot of stress.
Oh.
Well, it's not surprising you survived that terrible bombing. It's no exaggeration to say that most civilians have PTSD now. But it seems that your symptoms are a little different than most people's. You have very realistic dreams, for example. In particularly severe instances, they could almost be called waking dreams. I'm told at times you lose the ability to tell the difference between dreams and reality.
Isn't that just PTSD, though?
Fubuki was too scared to speak, so Yuki interrupted curtly. It was rare to see Yuki act like this. If nothing else, I had never seen it before. It was plain now. Yuki didn't trust Shimoyama. In fact, she considered him an enemy. No, it's very strange. Shimoyama paused a moment for effect and rubbed his chin. There are others who say they have very similar dreams, not just one or two.
What?
Of course, the degree to which they suffer from this problem changes, but when we found more than 10 in Japan alone. They exist in other countries too, while we've only got information from the West. That's just a coincidence, isn't it? Fubuki was incredibly frightened, so I spoke in her place. You've heard of Puchin, right? Suddenly, Shimoyama turned his gaze towards me and asked me a question. Putin? The Soviet General Secretary, right? I almost said the President of Russia, but managed to stop myself. The Soviet Union still existed in this world line. Putin's title was General Secretary, not President. I'd heard that during my time at Iruma. Correct, but interestingly enough, Naxei referred to him as the President of Russia. What?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Not really what you'd call a good student.
No, that's not it. It's one of those strange things about all the people who have these dreams. They all call him President Putin. They all call Gorbachev and Yeltsin presidents too. That's why the scientists started calling it President's Disease. Not a terribly clever name, if you ask me.
No way.
Is he talking about reading Steiner?
There's a strong chance that people besides me had that power, even if not as acutely. I never found out for sure, but what Ferris had said in the Alpha World line certainly suggested it. So it was certainly possible that Shimayama's waking dreams were actually the effects of reading Steiner. They were all aware of the world line shift a month ago, just like me. If Fubuki had the same memories of the other world line that I had, it would make perfect sense that she called Putin a president.
Gorbachev? Yeltsin?
You don't know them. Didn't they teach that in world history?
I only took science classes in high school.
Thought everyone knew about them. Kids today not know who they are. Find it hard to believe you're all that ignorant. I'm sure you know about Gorbachev and Yeltsin, right, Okabe?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Perestroika and the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah, they were in the textbooks. The second after the words were out of my mouth, an alarm went off in my mind. Something was wrong. There was something strange about what Shimiyama was saying. And then I realized. The East and West were caught up in the middle of a world war. How could the Berlin Wall have fallen? And could Gorbachev really execute Perestroika? By the time I realized he tricked me, it was too late. My panic appeared on my face.
You too, huh? And you were deliberately trying to hide it, weren't you? So the information was right after all. You know something important. Listen, Okabe, I want you to tell me.
Shimayama suddenly laughed. It was a bitter laugh, almost eerily so.
Gorbachev? Yeltsin? Who are these people you all keep talking about? We don't have any data on them, and neither do any of the American intelligence agencies. That data doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist? I looked over at Yuki. From the look on her face, I could tell that she really had no idea who they were.
Perestroika? The fall of the Berlin Wall? Did these things really happen? Tell me, please.
But I couldn't answer. I was thinking of something completely different. I suddenly realized why the world line might have changed a month ago on Christmas Eve. What if Russia used the time machine that day in an experiment to change the past? The goal of the experiment would have been to stop the collapse of the Soviet Union. And if the result of them changing the past was this world line... How foolish! A single change to the past and the butterfly effect makes the entire world so different. Did they know how many people had died?
Have you and your friends really experienced the history of a different world? I just can't believe it. It's just nonsense cooked up by some crazy scientists.
He was about to push me further when... we heard the sound of an incoming call on a cell phone. Shimayama grunted and took his phone out of his pocket.
This is Shimayama. Yeah, we're on our way to the bureau. What? What do you mean? Damn it, that's the problem with these idiots. What country do these politicians think they're working for?
Shimayama's finger slammed down on the end call button so hard I thought the phone would break. There was a look of rage on his face.
We're changing our destination. Head to GEHENNA base, gate 2.
His words were filled with irritation as he spoke to the driver. Changing destination? Who was he just talking to? As I sat there confused, Shimayama started to call someone else.
This is Shimayama. We're changing our destination. We'll meet at gate 2 at GEHENNA base.
That was all he said before he hung up.
What's going on?
Situation's changed. Okabe is heading to a U.S. military base. From there, he might get to take a fun trip on a U.S. Air Force plane to America.
What? America?
We'll ask them to make sure you get first-class accommodations, but don't get your hopes up. They don't listen to us any more than you listen to a yapping pet dog.
Why America? I don't know if it's the CIA or the NSC, but someone wants us to hand you over.
But why?
Ask them yourself.
And then he turned back towards the front and fell silent, refusing to answer any of my questions. The car went down the road for a while until we got off at an exit that read South Okinawa. We stopped in front of the gate. Several U.S. soldiers had evidently been waiting for my arrival.
Once we hand you over to the Americans, we're not going to get any accurate information from them. So this is my last chance.
Shimoyama turned around from the front passenger seat and looked straight at me. His eyes were desperate and begging.
Tell me, what are we supposed to do from now on?
Please. I remembered all the soldiers in Tokyo who'd fought so desperately to protect me. Were they fighting to help someone else in Tokyo right now? Or were they already... I don't know.
Okabe.
I really don't know. You think I can do something about this war all by myself? I mean, that Gorbachev and Yeltsin were presidents of Russia, or they brought a dramatic end to the Cold War. It doesn't actually help anything. I could hear the sound of another car getting closer. Shimoyama sighed and opened the passenger side door.
Get out.
I exited the car as I was told.
Green!
Maya got out of the van behind us and ran over to me.
Mahiri! Green!
My childhood friend flung herself into my arms and I held her tight.
I finally get to see you.
I'm so glad you're safe. I could feel her warmth. Mahiri was here. I'd never gone almost a whole month without seeing her before. And this was wartime. I couldn't easily contact her like I could in the old world line. So I'd been so worried about whether or not Mahiri was okay. It was no exaggeration to say that I'd survived this far just to make sure. I'd erased the entire Alpha world line to save her. No matter what happened, I wanted her to be safe.
Green, you're hurting me.
Oh, sorry. I'd held her too closely. I took a step back.
Maybe she believed it, you know. Maybe she believed she could see Ocarine again.
Yeah.
Hooray, you're safe now!
Okabe! I heard two more voices I recognized. Ferris and Ruka, and behind them I saw Kaede. I'm glad you're all safe.
Okabe, I...
Rukuko. I felt myself getting choked up too when I saw Rukuko cry. I exchanged greetings with Kaede too. Fubuki had grabbed onto her like a little kid. She was still pale and trembling. Ferris, I guess you're not wearing your maid outfit for once.
It's been a long time since anyone's called me Ferris, yeah?
Ferris spoke sadly, and she put her hand around my neck and held me close. Her little pink lips got close to my ear, as if she was about to kiss me. Hey! What's going on?
Don't be so embarrassed, yeah.
She laughed mischievously, and Ferris, no, Rumiho Akiha, whispered into my ear while pretending to kiss me.
Be careful. Don't trust the Ministry of Defense or the Americans. Adults are all liars. None of them tell the truth.
That's right. Ferris had a special talent. Cheshire Break. She was incredibly good at looking into somebody's heart and seeing what they were thinking. Yeah, I just figured that out. One of them just tricked me. Ferris looked surprised and took a step back.
That's sad, yeah.
Yeah. And then I heard the sound of another engine. This time it was coming from beyond the gate and inside the base. It belonged to a black luxury car with an E on the license plate. Behind it was a minibus. The two of them stopped in front of the gate. It was time for my reunion to end. Welcome! An American soldier as tall as a basketball player got out of the car. Welcome everyone, my name is Hammond. His Japanese was good, but not great. Everyone except Mr. Okabe, please get on the bus. He was smiling, but I could tell he wasn't going to allow any arguments. And the other American soldiers were still carrying their rifles as they stood guard without smiles. Shimoyama and the other Japanese soldiers were watching us from a distance. They didn't try to stop us. They were just looking downwards.
Huh? Everyone but Ocarine? What do you mean?
There's no need to be scared. We're just going to talk to you a little, and then we'll send you right to the Okinawa Defense Bureau. Come on.
Oh, green.
It's fine. Don't worry.
What?
Yuki, take care of Mayuri.
Okay.
Yuki nodded and put her arm around Mayuri's shoulder as she led her to the bus. Everyone else followed.
Oh, green.
Tell my parents I said hi. Once everyone but me was on, the minibus left immediately. The area in front of the gate fell silent. It was hard to believe this existed in the same world as all the places I'd crossed on my escape through Japan's main island. Alright, Mr. Okabe, come this way. He told me to get in the back seat of the black luxury car. What happened to me once I got inside? I tried to think about it, but realized there was nothing I could do. I was just about to get into the car when... Okabe, run! If you go to America, you won't come back alive! Kimiyama's scream was cut off by the sound of gunfire. In the corner of my eye, I saw the American soldiers firing without hesitation. No way. I tried to turn around when... Get inside! A large hand blocked my vision as Hammond held me down. I couldn't hear Shimiyama's voice anymore. Through the gaps between his fingers, I could see that nothing was moving. I knew exactly what that meant. I was shoved into the car before I had time to think about it. This is... I tried to open my mouth, but Hammond looked into my eyes and shook his head. I wasn't supposed to talk then. Hammond sat next to me and closed the door. The car started to move. Soon we turned down a different road than the one the minibus was taking. America, huh? I'd never been there before. What were they going to do to me there? Use me as a guinea pig? Cut open my head and dissect my brain? I probably wasn't going to be able to do any tourist things. I felt like screaming, but tried my best to stay calm. There's someone I want you to meet. Hammond suddenly spoke, then he handed me something. I took it before I even looked at what it was. When I checked, it was a normal smartphone. It's not locked, just hit that button. Confused, I pressed the button as I was told. And then something appeared on the screen. Kurisu! It was the Amadeus Kurisumakise. Why does the US military have Amadeus? I was about to ask Hammond when, for the first time in about a month, that feeling came back. .129954. The whole world in all its colors began to shift. There was a feeling of instability, like my brain wasn't able to recognize where it was, and then dizziness, and a sense of falling, like you get when you're anemic. I could hear the blood vessels deep within my ears, and they sounded really loud. The sense of floating finally stopped, and my surroundings coalesced into firm shapes.
Okay.
Maria was in front of me. I was in the lab, in the room I knew well. There was no trace of Okinawa anywhere.
Maybe she's gonna get embarrassed if you keep staring like that.
I realized I was staring at Mayuri. I looked around the room. Daru was sitting in front of the PC like always, hunched over with his back towards me. Suzuha was reading a magazine on the couch. On the open page, I could read the title. New encephalitis strikes worldwide! Are you in danger? The same couch, the same cheap fridge, Daru's computer desk, the dirty curtain that cut off the development room from the rest of the lab. The wall clock, which I'd picked up out of a garbage dump, told me it was past 6. I looked at the calendar, and 2010 was already gone. It was January 2011. The world line had changed again. I was back? To the old world line? Hey, Mayuri, this is Akihabara, right? Is it not Akihabara?
It's Akihabara.
What day is it again?
The 21st.
Do you know who Gorbachev is?
Gorbachev? I think I've heard that name.
Perestroika, right? Russia. Or was Gorbachev back from the Soviet days? These days, when you think Russia, you think Putin. I'm sure if he was right in front of me and glared at me, I'd pee my pants.
I know Putin. He's the president of Russia, right? Did Did you know he likes doggies? He keeps Nakita. I saw it on the news.
President. Yeah, that's right. He's the president. Maedaro and Suzuha looked over at me suspiciously. It felt like a long time since anyone had looked at me that way. I was back. I no longer had to worry that I might be killed at any second. I felt incredibly relieved. But at the same time, I wondered, why had the world line changed again? I needed to calm down and think for a bit. I went up to the roof and booted up the web browser on my smartphone. Unlike during wartime, it connected immediately. I was amazed at the speed. Just getting an internet connection in the last world line had been difficult enough. I started by searching for Gorbachev, and the results came back instantly. Perestroika. The Soviet Union's first and last president. The August coup d'etat and the collapse of the Soviet Union. All the keywords I hoped to see were there. As soon as I confirmed that the Soviet Union was dismantled at the end of the 20th century and no longer existed, I closed the browser. And why had the world line shifted again? I hadn't done anything. I didn't have any way to affect the divergence value. So what had changed it? Had whoever performed the first experiment in Russia undone it? Had they watched its progress for a month and then been satisfied? Were they going to keep doing it? If they did, would I be caught up in it each time? It's so cold. It was a mistake to come outside without a coat on. Nothing I could come up with by myself would be anything more than a guess. I went back to the lab. The wreaths we'd put up at the entrance for the Christmas party were still up. That Christmas party, huh? It'd only been a month, hadn't it? It felt like a million years ago. I had no memories of what I'd done in this world line after the Christmas party. Oh, come to think of it, we left the decorations up. You should take those down. Yeah, Miss Fubuki collapsed during the party, right? So there was a big fuss and we sort of forgot to clean up. Nakase and I collapsed? Was that when the world line changed? Everyone remembered that I had collapsed at the Christmas party, which means I'd come back to the same world line as the one I'd been in before. This was Russia's doing. It was terrifying to think they could control the world line to that degree. And there was one more thing. It worried me that Fubuki had collapsed too. I stood there, lost in thought. Daru and Mayuri looked a little concerned.
Okay.
Oh, come to think of it, I was wondering how Nakase is doing. I quickly came up with an excuse.
Fubuki's still in the hospital.
In the hospital? Even though it's been a month?
She says she's fine, but they won't let her leave.
I've heard that lately. Unless you were really, really sick, they wouldn't let you stay in the hospital for very long. Was Fubuki sick with something? I still think she's got this, I guess. Suzuha whispered as she held up the page of the magazine she was reading. New encephalitis strikes worldwide. Are you in danger? New encephalitis. I borrowed the magazine. They were talking about this last November. I'd seen a glimpse of it in the news. Outside of Japan, they'd seen almost 100 people, albeit with mild symptoms. In Japan, there were 10 people being kept at hospitals for examinations, or so it said. So it had made its way to Japan. And one of these 10 was Fubuki then. Was it transmissible by air? We didn't catch it at the Christmas party, did we? I knew that getting nervous wouldn't help anything, but still I wondered.
Hey, shouldn't you go to the hospital too, Ocarine? You were in worse shape than she was, you know.
Yeah, I'll think about it. Gave a half-hearted answer to Mayuri and turned back to the magazine. Strange symptoms being found all over the world. Cause unknown. Sudden memory loss. Memories differ from those of the people around you. Losing all sense of the passage of time. Losing the ability to tell the difference between dreams and reality, and sometimes having waking dreams. The article was filled with things like that. This was just like reading Steiner. And it matched exactly with what Shimoyama had told me in the other world line. You have very realistic dreams, for example. In particularly bad instances, they could almost be called waking dreams. Until at times you lose the ability to tell the difference between dreams and reality. There are others who would say they have very similar dreams, and not just one or two. I'd wondered back then if Fubuki possessed reading Steiner too. Maybe the reason she collapsed at the Christmas party wasn't some new disease.
the unexpected activation of reading Steiner. That would mean her diagnosis was wrong. The unnecessary tests and treatments they gave her wouldn't help a bit. It looked like I needed to talk to Fubuki.
And I think that is a pretty good place to cut it. Holy shit! We went from it just... Wow! My god, there's a lot going on here, and it is intense, and horrifying, and oh my god. And that's all I have to say to this. I really hope that you're enjoying this as much as I am, because this is intense. But yeah, for now, thank you all so much for following my playthrough of Steins Gate Zero, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye now!